To me, this is a legacy. This is a legacy to my kids and my grandchildren. And they'll look back down the road, they'll look at some of the things that we've done in this journey, and they say, hell, old Grandpa had a hell of a life.
That he did. Tonight, the Pacers play the Rockets in Houston. One of our objectives over the next 3 hours is to bring you a basketball game while also honoring someone who is often called the father of the franchise. An Indiana icon, Bobby "Slick" Leonard, passed away Tuesday, but his legacy will live forever. I think the only appropriate way to start this show is by saying, boom, baby. I am Jeremiah Johnson, honored to be with you tonight on Bally Sports. The last 24 hours have been filled with tributes and memories, sadness for a life that has come to an end, but also an appreciation for everything Slick Leonard stood for. Some would say he wrote the Indiana Pacers' history.
I'm not sure we'd be here today at the Bankers Life Fieldhouse without Slick and his wife Nancy. They were the absolute pillars upon which this franchise was built.
Many would claim he personified all that basketball is in the state of Indiana.
Well, he embodies it all because of his high school roots in Terre Haute, played at Indiana, and, coached the Pacers. He was a part of basketball at every level in this state, and I think that's really meaningful to people in Indiana.
Everyone would agree Slick Leonard was a Hoosier basketball legend who devoted his life to the state's beloved sport.
When they drive, they're looking to hit the guy going into the hoop on block and fade. Now let's get her going. Come on, baby.
Even though you can't quantify this, I think you could make the case that Slick is certainly the most important figure in the history of our franchise, arguably the most important figure in the history of sports in Indianapolis, and maybe one of the most iconic figures, regardless of profession, in the entire history of the city.
Reggie for three.
The Indiana native had touched basketball at every level, a storied man with many tales to tell. It's a toss-up which is the most significant, but there are so many we all love to share.
I think the most legendary story is the one involving the plane crash when he was with the Minneapolis Lakers. And to hear that for the 30th time, it's like hearing it for the first time. Because again, he doesn't forget anything about it.
I can go all the way back to first of all the championship teams that they had in the Fairgrounds Coliseum were instrumental in providing the public support for the building of Market Square Arena. Then the telethon. Then, after they moved into Market Square Arena, the telethon really saved the franchise for the city and enabled it to survive long enough to be bought again locally by Herman Melville Simon, and really you can say the rest is history.
I think he's most known as a Pacer, as both the coach and a broadcaster. I mean, obviously a lot of younger fans don't remember him as a coach. He coached from 1968 up until 1980, but for younger fans, they know him as a broadcaster, and he's a personality that way.
Those lucky enough to have known him would say he was an easygoing man behind the mic.
I think the quintessential Slick Leonard note would be, it's not the 529, the victories, it's not the 3 ABA titles, it's relationships, it's him.
It is no argument that Slick Leonard helped pave the way for basketball in Indiana. He's a name everyone knows and everyone loves. Slick Leonard, a man Indiana is lucky to call its own. We could have filled 3 or 4 pages listing Slick Leonard's accomplishments, highlighting some of them here. A national champion in college, what a run as Pacers head coach, 3 titles. He was married to Nancy, someone we might call the mother of the franchise, for 66 years. And oh yeah, he was also an iconic broadcaster.
Williams, Kenny with 10 to shoot, takes it to the top. LaSalle has it. Outside the arc with 6 to shoot. Reggie from 22.
Oh, baby! Another one!
Good gracious.
I mean, this guy is so hot. Light a match on him. Turn out the lights. The party's over. I didn't know for sure if I'd be singing that tonight, Mark.
Now, as much as Slick and Nancy were a match made in heaven, on a professional level, the same can be said for Mark Boyle and Slick Leonard. Mark joins us now. Mark, this could be a trying time, a somber show, but I'm guessing you are choosing to think of the lighter moments, the happy times, in a life that was so incredibly well-lived.
Oh, you said it perfectly, Jeremiah. As Slick used to say to me all the time, ain't none of us getting out alive. And he lasted 88 years, and every single one of those years was a delight for him and anybody that spent any time with him at all. To the extent that my viewpoint has changed today, it's because we've had a day to sit and think about it. We're still heartbroken, we're still sad, but I'm starting to focus on the happy things, the times we shared on the road together, the broadcasts we shared for 27 years, and the moments we had both here at the field house, back at Market Square, on the road. The man was a delight, and I could sit here for hours and tell you how he's influenced me both personally and professionally. It was a delight and a privilege to be in his orbit.
There was something so comforting to look up into the club level and to see you sitting next to Slick Leonard. But I'm wondering the fans' reaction when you saw someone get a glimpse of him, or perhaps be able to give him a high five or take a photograph with him. How much did it impact those fans?
Well, that's hard to say. I think you'd have to ask them. But just watching people, the thing that resonated with me about him was the way people approached him. Not that they approached him. That happens all the time to people of renown. But they approached him in a way that suggested they felt like they already knew him. That's the way he was. That's the aura he gave off. He was a very welcoming person. If you were a stranger or a longtime friend, it didn't make any difference. He still had time for you. And people never, ever stopped wanting to meet Slick. We'd sit up there, and people would stay after the game just to say hi to him. He was an amazing man who connected with so many people, and we were all lucky to have been even a small part of his life.
As we continue this conversation, I wanted to share some of the statements from the Simon family and also Larry Bird. You will see those on our screen right now. You came from different backgrounds. People can see what is said from the Simon family, but what allowed you to work so well with Slick Leonard, given that you were two very different people?
Jeremiah, I think that was it. If we were the same, we might have clashed. For lack of a better term, we each had our own space. His strengths were my weaknesses. My strengths were his weaknesses, and I think we complemented each other. We both had a passion for the franchise, but it was his entire passion. Much of my passion was also for the broadcast. And so I think we did a good job of complementing one another. I'm not an official baiter. That was one of the things that he thrived on doing. And so our different approaches, I think, worked well together. But I'll tell you this, I think anybody could work with Slick Leonard. It's a delight. He's easygoing. He rolls with the punches. And if you can't work with him, you need to find another job.
We'll end with this. It's been said by many, but I think we should repeat it right now at this time on this show. We would not be here. The Pacers would not be in Indiana if not for Slick and Nancy Leonard.
We've said it 100 times, 1,000 times. Let's say it 1,000,000 times, because it will never be any less true. Those two are so important to the history, not just of this franchise, but of this city and this state, and their impact will never, ever diminish.
Player, coach, broadcaster, father, grandfather, but I know he was your friend, Mark, and for that I appreciate you taking time at this time to join us on Pacers Live, and good luck with your broadcast tonight.
Hey, you want me to talk about Slick every night for the rest of the season? I'll be up here.
We'll book you very soon. That is Mark Boyle, voice of the Indiana Pacers. In the next segment, the tributes continue. We'll look back on some of Slick's memorable moments, his college years. We'll talk with Quinn Buckner. You're watching Bally Sports. You are watching Bally Sports. Pacers Live pregame is brought to you by Indiana Members Credit Union, keeping it simple and a proud sponsor of the Pacers for 11 years. By Xfinity, the fastest internet in Indianapolis. And by Menards. Save big money at Menards for all your home improvement needs.
He was a special guy and one of the most underrated coaches ever, because he would change our offense at halftime. People don't think that's the truth, but he would change out. He would put in 5 new plays at halftime. That's how creative he was, and they expected us to execute him. And with Freddie, we did.
He was a winner, just like we were winners, and he brought this to the court every day. So we didn't mind running through a wall for this man.
He's got the ability to read people, especially as a coach. He was able to get out of us the maximum.
Appropriate to share those archived interviews with Mel Daniels, Freddie Lewis, and Darnell Hillman. This statement from Jerry West saying Slick was always so helpful, kind, generous, and encouraging to him, adding Slick one of the most competitive players he ever associated with. Deepest condolences to his family, the people of Indiana, who so embraced him. That statement from former teammate of Slick Leonard, Jerry West. Prior to Tuesday's game against the Clippers, trainers Josh Corbeil and Carl Eaton put a sport coat over a chair near the bench for Slick Leonard. Those two were instrumental in helping save Slick's life when he suffered a heart attack in 2011. Last night as well, Nate Bjorkgren coached with a sport coat on to honor Bobby Slick Leonard. We have devoted a lot of this show to Slick Leonard's time with the Pacers, but much before that, he was a college basketball star, actually a high school basketball star in Terre Haute, starring for Gersmeyer High School, then went to Indiana University and helped lead the Hoosiers to their second national championship. He played for Branch McCracken. In 1953, the Hoosiers were in the title game against Kansas. Less than 30 seconds to play, Slick Leonard was at the free throw line. He shared this story during his Hall of Fame induction speech.
I'm on the line for 2 free throws. Fog Allen was the coach at Kansas. He called a timeout. But let me think about it for a while. And he did the right thing. Because when I got on the free throw line for that first one, I went to Choke City like you can't believe. But I made the next one, and we hung on and beat Kansas 69-68 for the national championship. So we're in the dressing room, and all the media's in there, and they're over there talking to my coach, who's a Hall of Famer, Branch McCracken. And after they got through with him, they came over to talk to me. And they said, we were talking to Coach McCracken, and he said, you had ice water in your veins. I said, baby, if that was ice water, it sure as hell felt awful warm when it was running down my leg.
Nobody had more stories. No one told them better than Slick Leonard. Quinn Buckner, also a national champion at Indiana University, 23 years after Slick Leonard, joins me now. Quinn, I'm wondering the first time you met Slick Leonard and maybe those early interactions, how quickly you learned what a special person he was.
Oh, it was without a doubt, almost immediately. When you're around Slick, you know you're going to have a good time. He's bringing out the good energy. We both happened to wear the same number, and the question was who was better with the number. That was Slick's deal. That's not mine. Trust me. I didn't care. But that's just his way of, razzing you, getting you to relax, to be comfortable around him. And what a wonderful man. Earlier you all heard from Mark Boyle. With Slick, it was like everybody he met was a friend. And it was unbelievable. Wise beyond his years, if that's humanly possible. But I'll tell you, one of the great experiences I've ever had is being around Slick. Every now and then you sit with him when he has a soda or something, and he shares story, and he was a terrific storyteller. But even more importantly, the joy he got out of just telling the story was the kind of things that you marvel at. And his favorite, I won't sing it, is "You're nobody till somebody loves you." Slick, we all love you. So we may be somebody, but you are for sure.
Well, last night, prior to the starting lineups at Bankers Life Fieldhouse for the Clippers game, the team held a moment of silence. You've worked alongside Slick for so many years with this organization. Could one person have had more of an impact on a team than Slick Leonard had on the Pacers?
No, I don't think they could. You already talked about some of the things he did early, but he had a profound effect on Larry. Because both of these guys, and when you think about it, Slick is from Terre Haute, in an area that, that was a difficult area to grow up in, as was Larry. So they instantly bonded. They also had this friendly competition about who had the best winning percentage. So there was always a little something going on in their conversation, but they had a very, very special relationship. So I was just blessed to see him in a variety of ways, but I always laughed when I used to watch those two guys talk about who won more games and who did this and who did that. But they had a great relationship and a lot of fun to be around.
We'll hear more from you, Quinn, throughout the night. Slick had a great relationship with his former players. Also, as you mentioned, the Pacers coaches. That list included Frank Vogel.
I always draw on his opinion, with what we were doing. He always had some strong opinions about Lance Stevenson, getting crazy with those teams that we had back then. And he was a big Lance guy. And, but every time I would see him or get together with him, I'd always say, hey, what are you seeing? What are you seeing with our group? I want to lean on your eye. Even with the Lakers team, I saw him last year. I said, what do you think of our team? It's something that's, I cherish very, very much in my life. And, I'm going to miss him a ton. Here for Pacers Nation, boom, baby.
Appreciate that from Frank Vogel. Coming up next, we'll have a special coach's game plan as we continue on this edition of Indiana Members Credit Union Pacers Live Pregame.
I threw a ball rack full of basketballs at a referee. We tried to intimidate them, and I tried to intimidate officials. One night I remember Wally Rooney. I got mad. I went out on the floor. He had his whistle hanging around his neck, and I just jerked it right off of there. Now, today, if you would do something like that, it would cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars. No question about it.
Of course, our Tom Roush coach's game plan had to be a Slick Leonard story. We will continue to preview Pacers and Rockets and bring you that game, but also pay tribute to Slick Leonard, as we will do also right now with an excerpt from Ted Green's documentary, Heart of a Hoosier.
Bobby Slick Leonard.
Bob Leonard of Indiana, quarterback of the champions of the Big Ten, a team man, a clutch performer, and a great outside marksman. Leonard is a star in the great Hoosier tradition. Indiana leads by 1 point.
National champion.
The wildly happy Hoosiers of Indiana are America's NCAA champions.
NBA star.
He was the ultimate competitor. I don't care who he was going to compete every night.
ABA legend. And now, Naismith Hall of Fame.
Fans, let's hear it for Bobby Slick Leonard.
From here on out in Bankers Life Fieldhouse, I will be fortunate to have my number in the rafters along with the great Slick Leonard with the letters H-O-F across it.
A hardscrabble child of the Depression.
Everybody knew the situation, and a lot of people helped.
Who helped transform the Hoosier capital.
If Slick Leonard did not exist, or if the Simons did not exist, then this arena would not exist, this team would not exist, and we'd all be Colts fans.
A man who defines Hoosier.
Indiana Hoosier.
If people knew where he came from and the background that he came from and all the obstacles that he had to overcome and to do what he did, and as graciously as he did it and as gracious as he is now, it's probably the greatest contribution anybody could do, and I think he should be proud of it.
Boom, baby! Bob Slick Leonard.
The 529 jersey is on display in the main concourse right now at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. We end this show the way we started it, with some powerful words from the one and only Bobby Slick Leonard.
The only thing left to say is I've had a love affair with the fans and the people in the state of Indiana. We call ourselves Hoosiers. And they've been very supportive. It's a love affair that has gone on for years, since I was at Indiana University. And I wish that it could last forever. But I know better than that. So as I look around this room, the Lord has had his hand on my shoulder. Now here's what I hope for all of you. That the Lord puts his hand on your shoulder and blesses you all the years of your life. Thank you.